Today we have a special guest on the line with us. Hi, my name is Roy Canterbury. I'm going to be host today on Arch Talk 101, and we have Loren on the line with us. Loren, how you doing today?
I'm good, Roy.
Can you
Got a
introduce yourself and tell us something about you?
well. My name's Loren Katt. I've lived in Gretna for. We moved here in January of 1974, whatever that makes it, pretty close to 50 years. Born and raised on a farm west or east of Hooper, Nebraska. Graduated from Hooper High School, 1969. Been a day or two ago. Member of the Hooper Cardinals football team for a couple years, and went to college in Lincoln, University of Nebraska. I joined a ag fraternity down there, and I met guys from all over the state of Nebraska, which was pretty cool because a lot of them are outdoorsmen. And when I wasn't, it was kind of the thing, well, whatever you've got at your place, whatever animals, if we was going to go pheasant hunting or duck hunting or whatever, we just kind of crashed on that guy's parents for that weekend. Might be 6, 7 of us just showed up at their house, needing a couple meals a day and a place to sleep. And we hunted. And anyway, one of those fellas got me introduced into archery. He had a traditional, it was an old bear bow at that time. So I got all wound up into that. My first bow was a bear grizzly. I wished I would have kept it. I traded it in as I upgraded through the years and everything, but started bow hunting in, it was either 1971 or 72. Probably went the first 4 or 5 years, just, I would say, wandering around, not knowing what I was doing, and didn't have any success. And then, as you picked up a few more friends along the way that added some tips and how to do it, success kind of came my way. Then I started killing a few animals, and that kind of makes it a little more interesting when you're doing that. It's just like fishing. If the fish aren't biting, you can sit there so long, but then that becomes kind of boring. So,
Yeah, it does.
so anyway, yeah, I was with my buddy, and we took a Thanksgiving trip out to western Nebraska on it was a Crescent Lake Wildlife Refuge. Really went out there to do some waterfowl hunting, and as we were driving along one of the marshes, he spotted a little spiked mule deer or a whitetail buck laying there. He said, "Did you see that deer? I'm going to sneak around and see if I can't get him." So we drive the pickup out around the corner a little ways, and he gets out and starts sneaking down the edge of the marsh. And lo and behold, got an arrow in the thing, and the thing got up, ran about 40 yards, and fell over. And I thought, man, that was just the neatest thing in the world. I got to be part of something like this. So I bought a bow, I think, later that winter, and it's kind of been going from there. I don't think I've ever missed an archery season from that day on. Every fall, I spent quite a few days out there. The last about 25 years, I got involved with the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission. Their mentored youth archery deer hunt. We take kids from 12 through being a senior in high school, and we've got a couple properties where we're the only people out there. So that's pretty exclusive to us. We get to take these. We can take only 2 at a time. So we set our stands up in sets of 3. North wind, south wind, whatever it may be, and then set pretty close. I think our rules say we're within 70 yards of the kids, but usually we're a little bit closer so we can kind of keep an eye on them. But in doing so, we've introduced quite a few kids to the sport of bow hunting. And I would tell you the moment they shoot their first deer is pretty special for these guys. And it's really a joy to be there and share it with them. So,
Yeah, everybody remembers the first deer they killed.
oh man, yeah. And especially this day and age now with these smartphones, you've got a really good camera with you, I remember we used to buy the disposable 35 millimeters in the first years, and we'd click a bunch of pictures and couldn't wait to go take them to Walmart or wherever and get them developed and see if they turned out. But this is pretty nice. We've even if you're lucky enough, you can, get the video turned on in time, maybe see some of the action going on. So outside of that, I like to fish. I've got 5 grandkids, a granddaughter, and 4 grandsons through a son and a daughter. They're all outdoors people. I try to get them. We go one family for a few days. We usually go up to South Dakota, the Glacial Lakes area, and take each family up there for 3 or 4 days fishing. And that's kind of the high part of the summer. It gets more difficult as these kids get a little older. They're all into baseball and a bunch of summer activities, and but we still try to get that trip in there. So, and in the wintertime, I just really love sitting on a frozen bed of ice looking down a 8-inch hole and wondering what kind of fish are down there. I love to ice fish too. So I'm still working. I've worked at the Farmers Co-op in Gretna since January of '74 when we moved here. I worked a couple years and then was given the opportunity to be the manager, and I did that for 45 years, and I passed the gavel a couple of years ago, and I said I'll stick around, just be a truck driver. But coming January of 2024, I'm going to fully retire, so I got more time to devote to hobbies. So
Yeah, like one thing I noticed when my dad retired, he was busier after he retired than when he was working. I never understood it. Well, I'm retired now, and I'm busier doing stuff now than I was when I was working.
I know a lot of retired people the very same way, Roy.
Yeah, the only difference is I'm working on stuff I want to work on for me and not, somebody else.
Yeah, sure. I did last summer. I started a volunteer thing. I think I made 15 trips. It's a nonprofit organization, and we've got a real nice pontoon boat. I think it's 28 or 30-foot boat, real nice plush seats. And we take people from assisted living, memory units, wounded warriors. I've been on it once already this spring, and we had 18 people from Nebraska School for the Blind. And we take them out on Lake Wanahoo. Might be a boat ride, but most of the time we involve a little bit of fishing with them. So that's kind of cool. Those people, when they come out of those assisted living places, they're cooped up all the time. And boy, I tell you what, you get them out under the blue sky, and man, they love it. So that's kind of cool. I like doing that. So
yeah, I know right where you're at, because that's not too far from you, Lake Wanahoo.
yeah.
Just a little stone throw away.
Yes, it is. It's pretty handy. So and the nice thing we like about that lake, it's a no wake lake, so we don't have jet skiers and big boats throwing wakes up, and some of these people get up on the pontoon, walk around. We don't want anybody to trip and fall and have any accidents or anything. So but
Well,
a lot of fun.
Not that big a lake that you'd want somebody with a seatbelt flying on it. By the time they get up to speed, they're at the next bank.
Yeah, exactly. So, the fishery was probably peaked out 3 or 4 years ago. We still catch a lot of small crappie. It's all catch and release, so it really doesn't matter. The bottom line is we get them some rod action, and they kind of like that. So, but so anyway, back to the mentored hunt. That's where I spend probably most of my spare time in the fall. A hunt would be either going out in the morning, sitting 2-3 hours, or in the afternoon, 2-3 hours. That would be, if you did that both, that would be 2 hunts that day. But most of us will average somewhere between 35 and 50 or 60 hunts a year with the kids. And so we get to spend a lot of time out there. It's quite a learning thing too. I mean, I can tell you, I've been on just about every possible kind of a blood trail, and some are successful and some aren't quite so good. That's part of being a bow hunter, I guess. So I try to teach them to sit quiet, make an ethical shot, and watch where the animal goes, and then get into field dressing, okay, here's how you're going to do this. We help them field dress them, and I've even helped. I do all my own processing. I've only ever paid for 2 deer to be processed in my life. Everything else, I grew up on a farm with home butchering, so shoot, it's just pretty natural to cut an animal up, and it's kind of neat. We got 2 or 3 of the other mentors that do the same thing, and we're constantly, sharing recipes on how'd you do this or how'd you do that. And so we've kind of involved some of the kids in that too. If they're willing to help, well, I'll stand beside them and tell them what a little bit of expertise I know about processing a deer. But that way they get to enjoy the table fare. The rest of the family gets to enjoy it. So it's not just a kill, it's a kind of a total thing. So we involve them in putting up tree stands, where we're gonna set them, and why we're putting them here, because this might be a south wind or whatever. So it's a pretty good learning curve. It's kind of neat to see these kids mature as they go through the program. So they're turned out some pretty good bow hunters. We've got a lot of the kids in that program have gone on to wildlife areas. We've got a couple of them into law enforcement, fisheries biologist, big game biologist. So they're going on forward. In fact, one of the kids that we had, I think he graduated out of our program 4 years ago, works in South Dakota now for Pheasants Forever. He took part in taking kids out up there in a Menard youth turkey hunt. So it's kind of cool to see those kids giving back too. So
Now,
kind of fun.
if somebody has a kid that they want to get into that program, how would they get a hold of you to do that?
Well, first of all, they got to take, it's Nebraska program, so they've got to take Nebraska's bow hunter education course, and pass that. And then we do, when they pass that, the game commission gives them a card. They'll get a postcard in the mail that says, hey, are you interested in any of these? And they have other hunts involved with that too, but interested in this archery deer hunt. So if they are, fill the thing out, send it in, and we'll gather these kids up. They have to pass a proficiency test. We make them shoot. They got to have equipment, sharp broadheads, and they got to be able to, put 4 out of 5 arrows in a small paper plate. So and we certify them at 10, 15, and 20 yards. Nobody takes a shot longer than 20 yards in this program, including the mentors. It's all about teaching them to get close to the game and be quiet and be able to pull that shot off. So that's how.
My
and
first,
go ahead, Roy.
My first deer was at 40 yards, and I've never shot one over 20 since then.
Yeah.
I set up for 20-yard shots, and they always come in closer to that. I shot them at 5 feet, because that's they come in. They're always coming in closer. And I want that 20-yard shot because.
But but it's good to still have that 40 or 50-yard pin. Once in a while, if you get a marginal hit, the animal might only run, go 40 yards and bed back down. And if you can, pull that shot off and get one more arrow in them, might be the difference between a recovery and not. So it's good to be able to do those kind of shots anyway. So, and we're hunting Platte and Elkhorn River bottom here, timber. It's fairly thick. It'd be a different story if we were out in the sand hills and the wild spaces out there trying to. Then you gotta be geared up to make some longer shots, obviously. So,
but in a lot of forest areas around here, to get a 20-yard shot is not easy. Even be able to set up to get one.
Yeah, right.
Let alone.
Yeah, there's it's. I always tell the kids, it's pretty warm when bow season starts September 1, and gosh, I've hunted one afternoon. It was 103 degrees. I can remember the sweat running down my back, and still harvested a deer that night. I usually freeze up a couple, 3 milk jugs and throw them in a cooler in the back of the truck so we can jam them in the body cavity if we do get one. But I said, we haven't educated the deer yet. We got lots of green foliage to hide behind, and this is a good time to get out there and get one. And then just like that, you're out there in December and you're shivering, and any little snap sounds like somebody broke a major log out there. The sounds are so amplified in that cold. So
yeah, I know. I was up in Teresa one time, and a deer was walking through the reeds, and I thought it was just somebody walking, prime time in the morning,
Yeah,
walking through the reeds. No, here was a deer,
yeah.
100 yards
You know
away,
that,
but still.
sure. These kids, they'll hear a squirrel behind them, and oh my God, the heart rate goes up, and they get all pumped up to turn. Then they'll tell you the story. I turned around and it was just a stupid squirrel right behind me there. So, but they'll learn, after a little while. I'm no expert. I get buffaloed by a squirrel once in a while too. So you sit there long enough, you want to hear something, and when you hear it, you think it's got to be a deer. So
Yeah. And then a deer come walking up, all of a sudden it's in front of you. You didn't even hear it walk in.
I've seen them come in almost knee deep dry leaves, and there they stand. I'm like, how did you get here? I should have heard this. But I finally, this last year, I broke down, and I'm wearing hearing aids now. There's no doubt I've shot too many blue rocks in my day, and didn't wear earplugs. And when we teach, I also teach the gun hunter safety class. I tell kids I'm the prime example of the guy that thought, I don't need those earplugs. And I said, no, yeah, here you can't hear anything. And the hearing aids are nice. So I'm telling you, I've heard things in the woods now this last fall, the first year I had them, that I haven't heard for years. So they're okay, but I think you're better off just taking care of your hearing to start with. So
Yeah, I know when I go to the indoor range, I wear earplugs. I get some custom made earplugs because the
there
normal
you
ones
go.
just don't seal up my ears good. And I wear headphones on
Yeah,
top, the earmuffs on top of that.
yeah.
So I got both of them on when I'm in the indoors. And I'll either put my
I
earplugs in or earmuffs on when I'm outside using the mower, the tiller, or anything. I put them on, and you know,
I think that's a good idea. You can't, once it's gone, you can't bring it back. So
no,
I just need to be careful with that stuff. So
nice thing about
yeah,
archery is it's not that loud.
that's the neat thing. And Nebraska season, gosh, it opens September 1, and if you want to tie in the January antlerless season, you got almost 4.5 months of hunting. You can go when you want. If you can't go this weekend, it's open next weekend. We'll get out there and get after it then. And of course, the best time is always the rut, starting about maybe October 20 through the next 30 days or something. But that is nice with this long archery season. So plenty of opportunities to get out there. And, just like you said, you might fire an arrow off, and I've shot one deer and had another one come in 2 minutes later while I was waiting for that one to, giving it the old 30 minutes to expire thing. So I think about four times I filled 2 tags in one night. And one night I had one of my a little gal that was hunting with me, and she was a good bow hunter too. And I shot 2 and she shot 1. And I'm telling you, it was early in the season. We had our hands full to get all that meat. It was a school night yet, and it was 1 o'clock in the morning. And I finally said, Katie, you got to get home. I'll finish this up. One of them happened to be a pretty nice buck, so we were caping him out, and it just took forever. So, you don't want to get too crazy knocking too many of them down unless you got facilities to cool them. So
Yeah, I know. One time I was on full draw on one, wait for it to step out, and I hear another one coming from behind me the other direction. And so I shot that one, watched it run off, turned around, loaded an arrow, pulled back, and shot the next one. So
yeah,
that helps because it's so quiet. They don't really realize
yeah,
it,
no, they
went
don't.
off.
Right. And I've seen them, one will flop down, and the next one might be walking by, and they might want to headbutt it to try to get it, to come back up or something. But so, yeah, archery hunting is it's something, you get out there and it's really quiet in the woods, and you just sit there and soak it all up and air your thoughts out, I guess is what I call it. So it's kind of neat. So
Yeah, it's kind of neat when you're sitting there, it's quiet, nothing's happening, and all of a sudden you hear this noise, you look over and see a leaf is falling, and you heard it falling.
yeah,
That's how
exactly.
tuned you are into any sound, and it's
Yeah.
just so quiet, and it's an experience that, if you don't sit in a tree stand, you're not going to have those experiences.
Yeah, I had one. I've been elk hunting. I started elk hunting when I was 50, and it took me, was it 14 or 15 years to fill a tag, archery, of course. So hunted Idaho. I had a friend that moved out there, so we hunted Idaho the first handful of years. One trip to New Mexico, and then we've been going to Colorado just over the counter tags. But one experience out there, and you talk about we climb up the mountain in the dark, and we tree stand hunt them elk, try to find a travel trail or something, and climbed up in the tree in the dark, and just breaking daylight, and I heard, you know, the crunch, 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 and they go, oh baby, here we go. Here was a big old black bear walked into the little clearing, and he stopped and he looked right up at me like he knew exactly I was going to be there. And you know, I'd never have had a bear encounter before, so anyway, I just remained real quiet, and he walks right over to the base of my tree, and he stands up on his haunches, and he's got his two paws on either side of the tree like he's going to come up. And so I said, get the hell out of here. I was trying to be quiet, you know, in case something else came. But anyway, he dropped back down, and then he turned and he walked away. And just before he left, he turned back and looked at me one more time like, I'll be back, buddy, or something. But that was a pretty neat experience that day. I probably had more bear in shooting range than I have elk, but you just never know what you might see from that tree stand. So those were interesting. Usually the first couple days we go on the tree stand, we sit all day. You know, typically go the opener of elk season, so they're not all stirred up yet. But I didn't think I could do that. But one time I climbed in the tree stand at 5:45 in the morning, and I think I got out at 5:30 or 6 o'clock that night. So it's as long as you can see a little bit of game. We had some mule deer come by. I had a bear go by. You can kind of keep the interest level up. But and then the mountains are, you know, that nice pine fresh air. That's really pretty pleasant sitting. So
Yeah, it's kind of nice when you can sit up there and enjoy the view and still
yeah,
have animals coming by. And you know, if you're
right.
sitting there and it was, you know, just sitting over some crop field and no animals coming
Yeah.
by, yeah, that'd be a long, long day.
Yeah, that's the thing with the kids. You know, I try not to get them out too, you know, about a 2 hour set. Much more than that, and if they don't see any animals, it doesn't take too long to burn them out, and then they don't want to go again. So
Yeah,
I would say that the kids of today are not the aggressive hunting kids that we had 20 years ago when I started that program. So they were, I don't know, a little more gung ho. We're going to go out and kill something. So
yeah.
anyway.
Now there's so many other things that take their attention, you know, if
I
they're
think
not.
that's it. Yeah. And then, you know, of course, everybody's got a smartphone. So, and I told him, I said, now more than one time has a smartphone cost somebody a shot at a deer. I said, you keep that thing in your pocket. And if you want to send a text message that you shot one or something happened, that's fine. But, to sit there and be playing games and stuff is not good strategy when you're bow hunting. So, but they got to learn the hard way. Some of them do. So,
Yeah, because they'll sneak right up on you, and you're on your phone. You look up, and it's
oh,
like you got your phone in your hand, the deer standing in
yep.
front of you, and your bow's hanging up. Like you
Well,
can't set the phone down and pick up the bow.
you've probably had this happen too. I've had it happen a couple, 3 times. You know, when the rut gets going, I've got my rattling antlers, and I'm clacking away on those things with my bow hung up, and bam, just like that, a buck shows up. You know, and there he is, and you're holding the deer antlers in your hands, and can't get the move made to pick the bow up. So they just appear, I don't know, out of thin air sometimes. So
Yeah, they do. They just sneak in on you, and you can't find them. And other times they make all kinds of rackets. So
yeah,
you never know.
yeah, when you'll get a small one that maybe you want to pass or something, and they'll lollygag around and bed down and get up and just tempt you, you know, 9, 10, 15 times, and like, get away here. So I don't want to shoot you.
I I had one do that one, a little buck come in, and he was, you know, he basically give me lots of shots, and I'm not worried about him because he's a good indication if a bigger buck's coming in, because he's
Sure.
going to turn around and look at it. And then I'm just watching him to see, because he's going to know that deer coming in probably before I do.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
now that he started looks at it, now then, of course, that bigger buck comes in, and where'd he be focused on the little one, not me. But
Right.
he walked off, nothing come in at that time. But
Yeah. Yeah, and as you probably know, there's not a smarter animal in the woods than those big old white-tailed does.
oh yeah,
All them snorting, foot stomping things. If they're the challenge, to get one of them. And anymore, I've got a handful of deer mounts on the wall, and anymore, I'm kind of turned into a meat hunter. I enjoy fiddling, making different recipes and sausage and deer sticks and what have you. So, but I'll still, oh yeah, don't get me wrong. If I have a nice buck come in, we're going to play him hard. So,
right.
but those old does, I'm telling you, I try to tell the kids, don't get, if you get busted in this tree stand, that doe's probably not going to use that trail again for, whatever, 2 weeks, a month, because there are pretty wise old kids. And I've seen those kids when that doe starts snorting, they literally almost jump backwards out of the tree stand because they've never heard a snort before. So
Oh
kind of a
yeah.
scary thing.
Unfortunately, I've heard it a few times, and
Oh yeah, I've heard it a lot.
yeah,
So
pretty much if a deer catches me in a tree stand, I move it. I just take the tree stand down and move it, because I'm not
yeah,
gonna use it again.
yep,
That season it's probably gonna keep looking up there. And
yeah,
I know, like down at Gifford Farms down there, those deer are used to looking up in the trees because they've been hunted so much, and so they look
yeah,
up in trees. And
yeah.
I don't,
That was
I've
the old
never hunted
adage
there, but
when
I've talked to guys that have. And
uh-huh. That was the old adage when I started bow hunting. They said, well, just get yourself in an elevated stand. Deer never look up. Well, guess what? We've educated them a little different. So
yeah.
it doesn't take long. And so, but
Yeah.
that's about me and what I do, I guess. So,
So
looking forward to full retirement, so I got more time to do this. Right now we've been out a couple times picking up on the old crappie spawn here. I've got a couple meals of nice crappies, so that's always fun in the spring of the year. And then later on we'll get up to South Dakota and chase some walleyes. And
now, where are you doing your
uh,
crappie fishing at?
we're over around the Salt Valley lakes around Lincoln there. So it's I've been out I think 3 times. So I hit it. We went out, a buddy of mine wanted to go a week ago Friday, and I don't remember that day, but good Lord, we had a long sleeve shirt and a jacket on that. We went out there about 5:30 in the morning. I literally froze out there. We didn't get any fish that day, but we went down a couple nights ago. I had my son and my grandson from Lincoln, and I think we wound up with 13 crappie or something. So, a couple meals, that was a pretty good deal.
Yeah,
So,
that's a good size.
yeah.
Fortunately around here we've got lots of lakes around the Omaha Lincoln area.
Yeah, but we need a lot of lakes because we've got a lot of population. So
Right.
I was surprised the other night how many people were out already. So then this weekend will be really, the big one, real busy. I used to, my dad passed away about 4 or 5 years ago, and I used to take him always on the Monday of Memorial Day weekend when all the campers were leaving and coming back home. Everybody had had enough of whatever the weather did and screaming kids and this and that. And then me and him would go out on Monday, and everybody was leaving, and we'd pretty much have the lake to ourselves those days. So that worked out good. But Memorial Day is always a good time to fish. So
Yeah, I know being retired, we can kind of go anytime during the week when I don't have something
right.
else going on. But I prefer to go during the week now instead of weekends, because
I do too.
everybody's
You don't
got
have
weekends
to,
off.
yeah, you don't have to fight the traffic at the boat ramps, and just a little more peaceful out there. So,
So what's been your most memorable hunt?
oh, probably the one elk that I shot. He was just a raghorn bull, but this was, I think it was year 14 or 15. It was season open on Saturday. So I sat this tree stand Saturday morning, Saturday night, nothing. And Sunday morning it had dawned and nothing again. Probably sat there about 2 hours. The sun was up and I looked, I heard something. I looked over my right shoulder and I could see the tips of his antlers coming through the scrub brush stuff. And he's going to come to a little bit of an open draw. And I've got a tree in front of me and he's going to walk behind that tree and I'm going to draw the bow. And everything just went according to plan. And I mean, I had the biggest case of buck fever. I don't know how fast my heart was beating, but it was hammered. I made the comment, I'm surprised I didn't start a rock slide. That's how bad I was shaking. And instead of that bull, continuing down the trail, he turned and walked directly away from me. I'm like, are you kidding me? 14 years, I finally get one in bow range and this is going to happen. Well, then he turned back broadside. I guess I don't, like you do a deer, a bat or something like that. And he turned around and I don't even remember telling my trigger finger to shoot, but it did. And I thought I made a terrible shot on him. It was kind of back, but it was really angled good. And anyway, he took off crashing. And I mean, he went over the top of a 3-inch Quakey and just snapped it and racket to no end. And it was fairly windy that morning. And then I didn't hear him anymore. Well, then like at 10 o'clock, I think this was about 9 o'clock in the morning. 10 o'clock, we always do a radio check. We carry walkie-talkies, and there was like 4 of us up there, and to see if anybody's got anything and if they need some help. So I said, yeah, I got one, but I think I made a bad shot. So anyway, this one of the guys that helped me a lot have some success bow hunting. He was hunting with us. And I also had my little hunting buddy, Katie. She was out of high school into college, and she came and joined us for the hunt. So anyway, those two came over, and the fourth person was a long ways away. Couldn't get him in radio. Anyway, we came back, and I said, well, here's where he went. Here's that Quakey that he snapped off, and so we started, and I didn't even notice it, but there was blood all over that Quakey tree already. And the thing had only went, I don't know, probably about 75 yards, and there he laid. And, that was pretty special. I just, you sit there and there's a great big old animal and like, wow, this is great. So that would have to be the best one. So then having 2 good friends there to, share the moment. And then, of course, we do the gutless method, I guess you call it. We, bone them out, roll them over, and all that. And a couple great big packs of meat, and 3-4 packs of meat, and the antlers. And we got him down the mountain and back to the base camp there, where we stay in a wall tent, and we have a generator in a trailer that's got. We make ice, so I could get him cooled down. And God, it was good table fare eating, and just. Everything clicked on that one. But like I said, it took 14 or 15 years to have that happen. So
yeah,
but that would be the best one. I've had a lot of good experiences with kids, and but that one would be the best.
So what's been your most challenging hunt?
Oh, probably the other elk. I mean, I've probably passed 4 or 5 calf elk up. When you see them the first day of the hunt, you think, well, we're seeing elk, now don't get in a hurry here. And then doggone it, 5, 6, 7 days later, I'm like, geez, that thing's as big as a big whitetail buck. Why didn't I take him? And just knowing the first few years we tried just doing it afoot, slow stalking, stopping and calling, and that, and didn't have a terrible amount of success doing that. That would probably be the most challenging thing there. Just, I guess, learning how to how to go about and do it. Everybody's got their own methods, but to me the tree stand method seems to work out pretty good. So,
Yeah, if you got a spot where, you think they're gonna come through fairly often, then
yeah.
yeah, the sitting is a whole lot easier on us old guys.
Yeah, it is. Well, where we've hunted in Colorado, we've got a reservoir, so there'll be 4 or 5, not real. They won't be hard trails like you'll see down here in the river bottom where whitetails run, but you'll have a couple sets of tracks and get a general idea where they're coming through at. So kind of get you in the area, and then plus been. I think I've been to that spot maybe 10 times or so, and you start knowing about maybe where you're going to see them. So.
Yeah, once you go to an area enough times, you kind of learn it and
Yeah,
know where they're
it's
going because they're gonna kind of go in the same areas.
yeah, you same general things until they're busted or pressured too much or something. So, but
Yeah, pressure will definitely
uh,
get them to change.
oh yeah, it'll. That's what we kind of like to go that opening weekend before they get rousted around too much. The only drawback, it's warm. It's been really warm, and we've had to. Scurry to get if we get an animal down, it's all hands on deck. Everybody kind of abandons their tree stand and we go help the guy that's got one down, get them, boned out and get your pack frame on as much as you can carry, and down the hill we go. So
Yeah, when you've got 3 or 4 of you, carrying that whole animal down is gonna be
that's, yeah,
a lot
I don't know that
easier.
I don't know that I'd ever try an elk hunt by myself unless, I had a four-wheeler or something that I could drive pretty close by. So, but
Yeah, with the whitetail, it's not quite so bad, because
no,
and you can
no,
kind of drag it out by yourself, but it's a
yeah,
lot of work. But an elk, yeah, you're not moving it by yourself.
no, no. And then especially if it's warm, you gotta get moving. Later on you might be able to bone it and quarter it and hang it or something. But it's yeah, they're a big animal. I was surprised. I helped a buddy of mine had shot a bull the first year we went out there, and we did that. We were boning the one side and went to roll the thing over, and good gosh, that's about all two of you can do to roll a bull over to get on the other side and work him. So, but he here that was another story that I was supposed to go that year, and I had a cousin passed away, and they asked me to be a pallbearer in the funeral. So I chose not to go. I could have drove out by myself and joined him later. Well, my buddy set his tree stand up in the same area I would have been in, and that's where he shot the bull. So it's just funny how things go. But I'm glad he got it anyway. So so
Yeah, I know one time Buddy and I was going to go out, and it was a light misty rain, and it was supposed to keep going all day, and I really didn't want to go in the rain. He wanted to go, so I went anyway because I figured he'd go sit in my tree stand and shoot a deer. So I sat in my tree
sure,
stand and shot a deer.
there you go.
Tracked by
Uh,
mud prints because there was no blood trail.
yeah, you gotta get on them pretty quick then. So, but yeah, it's kind of neat with these kids. They don't take that into consideration. What the rain can do to a blood trail, and it's a learning process for them too, and kind of see them mature and pick these pointers up as they go through the 4 or 5 years in the program, and try to turn them out. The biggest issue then, of course, is trying to find a spot, for them to hunt. So, but and that's tough living in eastern Nebraska. Just about everything is taken up. So, but
Yeah, and there's a few public hunting places, but they
yeah,
do get a little bit of work, and those that have a ways to walk in are easier because a lot of them don't want to walk in that far, and that way
right,
that if you have to walk in for a block and a half, 2 blocks or whatever it is, where
sure,
you could set up right there real close or walk in for you know 3 or 4
yeah.
blocks and or even a half mile, and it makes it a long drag out, but hey, if
Well,
that's where the deer are at, that's where you got to go, right?
that's right. They always say you got to get off the beaten trail to find them. So, but
Yeah, I know, like out at, I used Hunt Two Rivers a lot when I first started.
Sure.
And I know you know where that's at. Our listeners don't know
Yep.
that, but it's a campground as well as there's hunting areas in it. And, the deer there are used to people, because
Right.
they're walking around in the campground and there's people there all the time. So they're not as leery of you being out there. But you know what? Sitting in a tree stand, they still learn they're being hunted.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they do. That's what kind of helps us up by this reservoir where we elk hunt. There's a lot of trout fishermen walk up and down the trail to get there. And so I'm not telling you that the elk are used to people, but I think it helps. So
If they
anyway,
if they
so
hear a human walking, they're used
yeah,
to humans walking, so it's not figuring it's a threat.
right, exactly. So
That's that's always a good thing sometimes, and sometimes it's a bad thing
right,
because
yeah,
they get to learn, what we do, and if you do something different, then they notice that. And
yeah, yeah. They're that's how those animals survive out there. I mean, they got to be smart, and they're smarter than humans, I guess. So,
yeah,
and I know those white-tailed does are, boy, they're cagey critters. I always tell the kids, if you can get a big white-tailed doe down, you've just killed the smartest animal in the woods out there. So
guys,
those
not only looking out
those
for themselves, they're looking out for their fawns as well. I
yeah,
remember one
yeah,
time
exactly.
I was sitting in a tree stand and this doe comes walking by with the fawn. And of course, doe and the fawn, I'm going to let the doe pass. Um,
Right.
it's not like I had to have the deer. Well, the fawn beds down, not even 20 yards from my tree stand, get a perfect shot,
Wow.
and the doe walks off. So I was sitting just
Huh.
watching the doe, and later on it come back and then picked up the doe and left. It just left it sitting there. Didn't even know I was there. And
Yeah.
now if
Isn't
another
that
doe
neat
had come
when
from the same way as that one did, I'd have probably shot it. But
yeah. Yeah, we don't let the kids, we tell them don't be shooting anything with spots. And the same way, don't shoot the mother if it's got spots, a fawn with it. Let them get a little bit of size. There's enough other kind of animals out there to pick from. So then you'll get the occasional kid that's going to shoot a trophy buck the first year that he's a bow hunter. And I'm like, let me tell you something. Until you get 3 or 4 deer under your belt, and you know how to get the motion of drawing the bow and making the shot without the deer seeing you, I suggest shoot whatever comes by. So
right.
we'll do this trophy hunting a little bit later down the road. So
Yeah, when you already have experience shooting them and
yeah, yeah, exactly.
cleaning
we
them
do
and
a we do a summer we've got a summer archery league for kids now. I've done that for a number of years down here at Shram Park. We got couple more guys in our archery club that come down and help, and we set up one basic row of targets, a 20 target little walkthrough course in the woods just for the kids that are going to be in that men or youth hunt. And then we make them like 15 and 20-yard shots and some different angles and ups and downs, and all from the ground, of course, but try to keep those kids kind of in polish, for when the season opens. So
right. Now, which archery club are you in?
it's called the Lower Platte Archery Club. It's one we put together, oh gosh, I don't know how many years ago. A handful of us were going down to Shram Park here and shooting the range, and we decided, well, let's make this a little competitive. And then we started keeping score, and then the thing grew. I would say at the peak we probably had 60, 70 members. Now we're probably down to about 20. We lost our place for our winter archery league for shooting, and so that kind of hurt. A few people dropped off, and we've had for probably the last 10 or 12 years a real big youth gathering too with that. So we'll have in the summer, it's not a lot of ball games and stuff, but we'll have 12 to 15 kids join us down there at the park for a youth league. We give them some instruction in that. But in the winter, we used to do it 2 nights because we couldn't fit them all in one night. We'd have upwards of 80 kids in 2 nights, and they're shooting archery all the way from 5-year-olds to teenagers. So we tried to put them in different, age groups and classes by talent levels, and that worked out pretty good. But it didn't take too long. You put a bow and arrow in a kid's hand, and then if you really want to get them going, put some balloons up. Something about magic balloons. When that balloon pops, boy, let's do this again. You can do that and blow up balloons till you're blue in the face that night. So, but
Yeah, I know when I've
it's a
helped out at
catching
some of the,
sport.
when I helped at some of the events, like at the sports center, I go down and
Sure.
help them out. I used to do that every year, and we'd have
Yeah.
balloons up there, so you almost couldn't miss it. And then I'd take the
Right.
bitty kids, and I got pretty good at aiming the bow for them. So when they let go, they actually popped the balloon, and
Right.
it's kind of weird. I got to where I could almost aim better when I'm holding them than I could myself.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
do it so much, and they get so excited when that balloon pops.
Yeah, they do. I don't know what it is about that pop, but it makes them want to do it again. So yeah, that's kind of fun. I've done that too at the boat sport and travel show and that, and you'll get the first pass around, the kids will come in and shoot, and then first thing you know, they're back about 20 minutes later, and then about 20 minutes after that, they're back again, and then like mom and dad are like, come on, we got to watch the rest of the show and get going here. But so it's definitely a sport that they want to keep at, I guess. So
Well, and I've seen some, it's like, okay, they get done, they get back in the line. They just keep going,
yeah,
keep going to the back of the line and keep shooting.
I know it. And and that's what I tell them about, this youth hunt. I said, right here, everybody plays. You might be on the football team, you might be on the basketball team, and you got a spot on the bench. But I said, out here, everybody plays. We take it so that one kid has been out 2 or 3 times and somebody hasn't. We even that up and try to get the rest of them out and keep them going. So, but we got to dodge football, basketball schedules and stuff at school too. So, but we early in the season when it doesn't get dark till 8:30, you can get a lot of after school hunts done. And it's kind of funny. A couple of the kids, I said, well, can you go tomorrow night? Oh man, my teacher loaded me up with homework. And I said, you know what? I'm going to call them teachers and I'm going to get this straightened out. And they looked at me like, really? And then I started laughing. So I said, no, I probably better not do that. So, but
how dare you give him all that homework? He's got to go hunting.
Yeah, I said, it's deer season for crying out loud. So, gosh, when I went to high school in Hooper, you could carry your shotgun in your pickup if you was going to pheasant hunt on the way home. But now you can't even have a bow and arrow on the school grounds unless it's a function or something. So it's kind of a shame the way the world went, but it is what it is. So
yeah, and I remember when I was in high school. I was in high school in the early '70s. I graduated in '73, and all of our trucks, they all had gun racks in the back of the trucks.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't unusual. So once in a while you have somebody have a gun in the gun rack and go hunt on the way home, and nobody cared.
We were talking about that at work the other day at noon. I don't know if this is true or not, but somebody said right now it's illegal to even have a gun rack in the back window of a pickup. Do you know anything about that? Is that true?
I hadn't heard that, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody sees it and calls in that somebody's got a gun.
Oh yeah.
They have a gun rack. And
yeah, we still a year ago we did a hunter safety class. I was able to use one of the schools yet, and I told them we're going to be carrying some some firearms in there. We're not going to have any live ammunition. Oh no, that's okay. So good thing about Gretna schools, we still got to do that. So, but
yeah, well, I know
anyway,
when my oldest went to hunter safety, you went to a Catholic church school, and the father was teaching it. He brought his old guns, has got all these pistols in there, and of course he didn't have any ammo with it just because didn't want to take a chance. But still, it's like right there in the school, and
yeah.
when they're paranoid about it, that's when we have the problems.
Right. It's good for those kids to know, to recognize, a firearm and know how to check to see if it's loaded or, what's going on when they're not around. Some buddy pulls it out or something, and know a little bit of some safe gun handling stuff. So,
Right.
like, don't point that muzzle at me. So, but
Yeah, I know.
hopefully we've through the years saved a few accidents and lives in doing so. So, but
Yeah, I know. When I had my kids at home, all my guns were in a plastic case, hard case with a padlock on.
yeah,
Not
yeah,
not because I didn't care about my guns. Get my kids knew where the key was. They could get
yeah,
it anytime they wanted. Except my handgun, because that was in a briefcase there's only one key for it, and I always kept it on my key ring. But
sure,
they knew where the key was to get the locks off. But it wasn't locked
yeah,
because of them. It's locked because I didn't trust their friends.
yeah, yeah. You
So
never
I
know.
didn't
So,
know how the friends would if they come across them and open them up and do them.
yeah.
I know when I was oh geez, before the middle of fifth grade, my neighbor got killed with what should have been an unloaded shotgun, was hanging up at
Really?
the guy's house. It was loaded, and brought it
Oh
down and ended up
no.
killing him. And
Huh.
it's like you just got to be careful. And I remember
Yeah, I
when
know.
I worked at Bass Pro for a while, and one summer day, this lady come in with a whole list of different guns. They'd had a fire, and there was some smoke damage mostly on them. None of them should have been
Uh-huh.
replaced because of just smoke damage. Just clean them. But she said
Sure.
I couldn't figure out exactly what they were just by the description. She says, "Well, in her trunk, I want to go look at it." Nice day. You bet I'm going outside. So I went outside. She opens up her trunk, and there's some rifles in there and shotguns. And I picked up the first
Yeah.
one, I think it was a rifle, and looked at it. Picked up the shotgun. And of course, what's the first thing you do when you pick up a gun is you make sure it's clear.
Yeah.
Well, I opened it up, I ejected a live round,
Wow.
and the safety was off.
Oh my gosh.
Loaded shotgun with the safety off on top of about 4 or 5 different other guns.
And
Um,
she loaded them up that way.
yeah, well, actually her husband put him in the trunk, and she asked him, "Are they unloaded?"
Oh.
He said yes.
Oh.
Well,
Yeah.
I think he's got an earful that night because I showed her. It's like, "Here," and the safety's off.
Yeah.
That's an accident waiting to happen. And
Oh,
now, it wasn't
absolutely, on a
pointing at her,
bunker.
but it was pointing at the driver's side in the trunk. So it could have went off,
Oh my
and
gosh.
who knows who
Yeah.
got shot by it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
That's how
I
those things
tell that story a
happen.
lot is you always check for clear. And
Right.
when I was teaching my oldest about guns, I had like 44 mag, and I'm showing it to her, and she's 4 or 5 years old. She couldn't pull the trigger unless I cocked it for her. But I'd hand it the
Uh-huh.
gun, I'd show her how to check for clear, and then hand it back, and I'd open it, check for it, and I'd hand it back to her, and just let her get familiar with it so she wasn't afraid of it. And
Sure.
I've done that. Just get them used to it and know what's going on.
Right.
You teach them what the guns are for, and you don't have to worry about them. I never worried
Right.
about my kids because they were trained, as they got old
Yeah.
enough, let's look at it and see. And, now
Yep.
I don't worry about them with them because, well, they're all older now.
Right.
So
My we had a young man in one of our classes. It's been one of the early classes we did no good number of years ago. And we get into the muzzle loaders and to show them how to check if a muzzle loader's loaded with a ramrod. If it doesn't have a
right,
mark on it, you kind of put it back to the nipple where the firing wherever it's going to go. And the second night, he says, "You ain't gonna believe this," but he said, I don't know if it was in his house or his grandfather's house, and whichever house he went and checked, they had a gun hanging up over the fireplace, and it was an old muzzleloader, and they pulled that sucker down, and it was loaded. So he figured that one out via class, so that was
right.
good. I said, well, he said, what should we do with it? And I said, if I was you, I don't know how old it is. I don't know what kind of a gun it is. Take it to a gunsmith and, somebody that knows, and they'll get that thing unloaded and make it safe to put back up above the fireplace. So
Well, and
that's how those, little stories and incidents, that's how stuff happens. So,
if you have something loaded for, self-defense inside, that's one thing.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
that gun is loaded, it's loaded for a reason. It's not
Yep.
just stored. Um,
Right.
that's one of the things that
Exactly.
you need to, pay attention to is,
Yeah.
is it loaded? Is it not loaded? And if it
You
is, why
know,
is it? And
so, and you probably know more than I do, but I had a granddaughter that she shot trap down in Link West. I only have one granddaughter, and she got on the trap team as I believe, a sixth grader. They can start, and then she shot all the way through her senior year. And it's just amazing. Of course, they all have to take hunter education before they're allowed
right,
on the trap team and that. But I forget what 17, 27. I don't know how many kids go to the state trap shoot at Doniphan and how many rounds are shot out there. And knock on wood, never an accident because those kids are safe and they know what they're doing. So
right.
it's
My son
pretty
shot trap and went out there
remarkable.
one year, and yeah, it's amazing. These kids that some of them aren't even old enough to drive yet are carrying shotguns around,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
everybody's safe. You
exactly.
don't feel, in a danger. Oh, there's a gun.
No,
There's a gun here. No.
no, nobody's threatened. It's just like, yeah, this is what we do. So it's pretty neat. So probably wouldn't go over real good in Chicago or New York City, but right out here in the Midwest, it's kind of the way of life. So
Yeah, there's lots of guns here in the Midwest.
yes, yeah, and most of them are used for hunting. So, but
Yeah, we've got all kinds of different things here to do, and so I got one more question for you. What other
sure.
animals have you hunted besides deer and elk?
Oh, I've been on a couple wild pig hunts. Got a couple of them. I don't working yet in the spring. I don't get out to do any spring turkey hunting, but I have shot a handful of turkeys. And I had my granddaughter has killed three of them with a shotgun back when she was just old enough to get a permit. And some small game. Back in the day, working at the co-op, all these companies that supplied us with goods and stuff. This is back when there was a lot of freebie stuff. You could go on a fishing trip with them, or we did a lot of game farm pheasant hunts, and those were fun. Actually, we did. I've probably done 4 or 5 total wild bird hunts, pheasants up in South Dakota. Some pretty pristine hunting up there. So pheasants, quail, turkeys, wild pigs. That's about it. Some waterfowl, and we did some waterfowling when I was in college, but there's only so much time in the fall, and bow hunting takes up a bunch of it, so I haven't gotten into the waterfowl stuff here. I got friends that always say, "Hey, get a tag and come join us for a day or two," and I never get it done. So, but that's about it. Kind of not a well-versed hunter, but a little bit of a mix. So
Yeah, as I was growing up, and a kid, it was, some of the areas that we used to walk for pheasant is all full of houses now.
yeah. Yep. I had a real good friend that lived out on the Davie corner on Highway 77 north of Lincoln. And he was in my college class. And we would just take off from his dad's house walking. It was all Osage orange hedgerows. And I didn't know what a quail was when I went down there to Lincoln to college, because a quail or a grouse, either one, I'd never seen them. Growing up here by Hooper, we had pheasants and that was it. And so we would just take off from this guy's house, and we might push up a covey of quail or two and get a rooster or two. He always had a couple bird dogs that we took with us, and we could just walk, make the big old loop for a couple 3 miles and walk back. But yeah, that locale down there is all changed too. There's a bunch of houses down there now. It's
Yeah,
kind of sad, but it's kind of a good deal. As I do take care of our place, we have a fertilizer storage facility up at Elk City, which is up in Washington County, about 30 miles north of here, I suppose. And I see a lot more pheasants in Washington County. There's more livestock up there, so there's a lot more habitat. You don't have all these housing things, and you see some of these prep corners where they got a kind of a worthless corner, and they put native grass in it now, and it's a pheasants forever, a little sign hanging there and that. And I've seen quite a number of, hens and roosters on the road and the road ditches this spring up there. And boy, it's kind of nice to see. So
Yeah,
don't necessarily have to get up there and hunt them. I just enjoy seeing them too. And then that, and where I work at Elk City there, a lot of times I'm working outside in the driveway doing something by the shop, and I'll hear quail whistling down in the bottom. So, but kind of neat to hear. I'd never heard that before I got these hearing aids either. So
yeah,
good deal. But
yeah, it's amazing what the electronics can do, to help you on your
oh
hearing.
man,
You know,
yeah, thank good. I got to wear reading glasses, but my long range vision is still pretty good, thank goodness. So I take care of that. That was really interesting the other day, a couple of weeks ago, when we on that boat, that Live Well Go Fish, we took the people out from Nebraska School for the Blind, and they always said that when you're missing one of your senses, the other ones get extremely sharp, and boy, they do. I mean, those people could remember voices. We met up with them and got a life jacket on them. They came walking down through the parking lot with their white canes, and we got life jackets on them. Met them outside the boat ramp, then kind of helped them get on the boat one by one. And one of the fellas, I just said, "Hi, my name's Loren." I said, "I'm going to hook you up with a life jacket here," and he goes, "Well, my name's John, Loren. Oh, thank you, and I'll put on." He wound up being in a different boat from me. 2 hours later, we're done fishing, and we're getting everybody back off the boats, and he wasn't on my boat. But as we walked up to the shore, I saw him there, and I said, "John, how'd your morning go?" And he said, "Loren, I had the time of my life." Now, I had only talked to that guy for 15 or 20 seconds 2 hours earlier. He remembered my voice and put my name with it. It's just amazing how sharp those people are. It's and they did enjoy the heck. We did the casting for them, and then you had to hand the rod and reel down to them in their hand. And we were just pulling little tube jigs in on bobbers. And the first boatload, we were out there for 2 hours. We had 9 of the people on there, and we had 65 crappies. Believe it or not, all catch and release. And their hands and their sense in their fingers is so sharp. I think I got a bite. I said, "Well, yeah, you do. Your bobber's down." It was amazing. It was a learning, boy, I mean, you take care of your eyes. You appreciate it when you got it, because you don't know what those people are going through without them. But what a great group of people. So.
yeah, it's always interesting when you can take somebody like that and no matter
Yeah.
what that the disability is, and get them out there and enjoy the outdoors. And I've seen ones where they've set up special wheelchairs so they can shoot the guns or their bows, crossbows.
Sure.
They're all lined up where they have enough mobility that they can line it up, but they can't walk.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
lots of wheelchairs that go places I'm not sure I want to walk.
Right, exactly. We had a young man in the Mentor Youth Hunt. This had been, I don't know, 15, maybe 20 years ago. Spina bifida, and could barely get around. Had those crutches that attach to your arms, and he could kind of hop around. So I set up a ground blind under a cedar tree, and he couldn't pull a regular bow, so we got him a crossbow to use. And we took him several times hunting. The good thing was his mom always sent this great big sack of either oatmeal raisin or chocolate chip fresh baked cookies along. So that was sweeter than ever. But one night we finally had a deer came in, and finally got used to the blind, I guess. And he got a shot at a deer, but I'm not sure where. Those crossbows are so fast, didn't follow the arrow, couldn't sure where he hit the thing, and when we didn't recover it, which was kind of a heartbreaker. But yeah, we would get out there and got a special chair set up in that blind for him, and I made a table with a piece of carpet on it we had tripods or a bipod for the crossbow to be able to shoot, and that was he enjoyed it. You know what he did now? He went off to school, and he's a gunsmith. So
Oh yeah.
he went on. He finally found that little niche that he wanted to do, and pretty sharp. I've got an old Remington 870 that I bought in college. I think I paid $89 for it, a Wingmaster. Kmart had them on sale. Everybody in my frat house went and bought one. And my barrel was getting kind of bad, and he reblued it for me here a couple years ago. So, but kind of neat. So,
Yeah, I managed to get a 870 Wingmaster when I was, been several years ago now when I was working on the base. The back gate of the base, there was a pawn shop, and I stopped in there one day, and it's like made a deal. It's like $125 for the gun and the case it was in. And I
really,
said, can you hold it till I get off work? Because I'm not going to put it in my trunk. The visibility, so the guards at the
yeah,
back gate can see me loading the shotgun in there and drive on base. So he held it. And I picked it up after I got off work. But
yeah,
you don't take firearms onto the base without notifying them.
no,
They put it in the armory.
yeah,
Yeah, I didn't want to do that. He could just hold it. So I paid for it and picked it up after I got off work. But that's
yeah.
$125 for Wingmaster. I don't know what they're running now, but they've got to be
I don't know either. They've got a cheaper grade that's really they call them an 870, what is it, Express or something.
Express.
They got,
Yeah.
I think these couple different grades, but boy, that's been a good old gun over the years. So I still pull it out every once in a while when we go to shoot blue rocks, just to run a few rounds through it. So, that I was going to say, a lot of our kids that go through the mentor program, we've had a pretty good handful. I bet 4 or 5 kids every year when they graduate high school wind up going to South Dakota State for college. A couple come out in law enforcement, wildlife management, whatever. But so those kids up there, of course, up there in God's country for pheasants, they all don't take too long to make an acquaintance with somebody where they get invited to go pheasant hunting. And they were telling me the one dorm that they stay in actually has a game cleaning room in the basement. They keep their guns down at the local sheriff's office. They just check them in, check them out, much the same that you did there, Roy, I guess. So, but it's pretty good that you got a state like that that's working with kids that want to take in the outdoors like that. So,
Yeah, and it's completely different. When I was in high school, I was on the rifle team, and we shot 22s, and
uh-huh,
that's in the first year. And then when I built Northwest, I went there the second 2 years. That's where I graduated from. But we had a rifle team. We'd go down in the basement was the range, and there was an armory down
sure,
there. We'd check out our rifles. We all had the same one. We had one
uh-huh,
assigned to us, and we'd shoot it all the time. And it was nothing.
yeah,
We didn't think nothing of it. And
yeah.
now that they've eliminated the 22s, now I think it's air rifles or something they're shooting.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did 2 years of Army ROTC in college, and we got to shoot 22s down in the basement of the military, and I think it was called Military and Naval Science Building or something. But yeah, that was kind of fun. So that was right up my alley. So
Yeah.
wasn't wasn't the best shot in the world, but it was a lot of fun doing it. So
Yeah.
I don't know
You
whether they
kind of,
still do that or not.
yeah, I don't know. I haven't, looked into that, but high schools are so much different now than when we were in
Yeah,
high school that, there's,
yeah,
there's always change, and sometimes for the better and sometimes not.
yeah. That's the way our world goes, I guess. So just you know savor those moments when the good. I always tell kids, I said, if we don't recover the animal, I said, well, that's not good, but it happens. And I said, so when you do, I had actually I took my grandson last year, the one 13-year-old who lived in Gretna, and he shot his first deer with a compound. He had got one the year before with a crossbow, but he's not real big stature wise, but he shot one with a compound bow. And I said, we only went about 40 yards and crumpled up. I said, it's not always going to be this way.
Yeah.
I said, savor the moment, because there's going to be some rocky roads down the line when maybe you don't make that good shot, and maybe you don't find the animal, and that's not good, but it's going to happen. But enjoy every time that it does go right. So
Yeah, we're all going to have, if you hunt long enough, you're going to have one of those days where you
oh
made a
yeah,
bad shot, and you might track for
yeah,
hours and hours and
right,
not find it. And, we've all got
yeah.
stories like that we can
Oh
tell
yeah,
very long.
we've been on some all-nighters and went back the next morning, and you just make it wonders, where did it go? So, but It happens.
Yeah. Fortunately not a lot. So that's,
No.
because
Well, and that's, you learn by your mistakes. If you have one of those blunders and it's like, well, don't, if you haven't filled the tag and it's late in the season, once in a while you start pushing yourself a little bit to take a shot that's maybe not there. And so you learn by your mistakes. So
yeah, and that's all I can do is like, okay, I did something wrong on this one. What did I do wrong? And it's like, okay,
right.
I just remember, okay, when this happens, I just don't do this or I do this.
Yeah.
That's
Be
always a good thing.
patient.
So,
Yeah.
Will, what would you say to our new archers out there or somebody thinking about getting into archery?
Well, I would, if you're brand new into it, try to find a friend that's in it already, and have him relive some of his experiences with him, and maybe get a little bit of guidance. I mean, there is a ton of tackle out there. You can go in the archery pro shop to buy a bow sight, and there could be 25 different bow sights on the wall.
Oh,
And
at least.
where or get to a good pro shop and trust them, and get to know them, so you got some help. You don't have to spend an arm and a leg on the newest and latest and greatest equipment, but you need something that's going to work. And maybe you can get into it with some used stuff, or if you've got a buddy that's been in the bow hunting, he can tell you some of the things that he's done that have worked good, and some that maybe hasn't worked quite so good. But to me, it's all about sharing the experience out there. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a lone hunter. I'd rather be going with some kids or a buddy or my grandkids or somebody. So when something happens, you got somebody to share the experience with. And then, in doing so, you can also, you can learn from it. Like when I started bow hunting, I paid no attention to the wind. I didn't know it. So what? Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you what, them whitetail noses are pretty damn sharp.
Right.
And I made 26 trips the first year from Lincoln down here to Asa. We hunted right off the back of the guard impact area. A buddy of mine in the fraternity, his uncle farmed that, and he had like 40 acres of timber. I hunted 26 trips that year, sat in the same tree stand every time. Didn't matter what the wind was. I had no idea what I was doing. And then one night, I finally had some deer coming down a ridge behind me, and I had 6 arrows in my quiver. And my first shot, this is with the old bear grizzly instinct, and I wasn't a bad shot. I got second in an intramural thing down there at the university once. I was a pretty good instinct shooter, but nobody told me to bend at the waist when you're up in a tree stand. First arrow was about 2 feet high, and the deer just kept walking by. And the next arrow was a little bit lower, but still didn't. Long story short, I shot all 6 arrows. The last arrow just about grazed the back of the deer. It was getting closer, but I was out of arrows. Nobody told me you got to bend at the waist when you're shooting from an elevated platform. I didn't know that. So if you pair up with somebody that been there and knows some of this stuff, that's good. And good in more ways than one, because they can help you on equipment and tackle, and spend some time. And again, if you need 2 guys to throw that big old buck in the back of the pickup, you got an extra helper out there. So I guess that's what I'd tell them. So
I know when I had my store, I recommend new archers get in at that. I was a PSC dealer, like the Nova bow, which is your entry level bow. It's all set up with the sight, the rest, the quiver, some sling, stabilizer. I went on and set them up with a cheap release and arrows. So you
yeah,
don't need an expensive one. You don't need the newest, latest one. In fact,
right,
my hunting bow is a 2001 PSE. My target
really,
is a 2003 PSE.
yeah, they
You know,
work. They still, I mean, if they killed a deer in 2003, why wouldn't they do it now? So, but
well, and a lot of
mine's
people think,
go ahead.
yeah, a lot of people think, you need a fast bow. The
Yeah,
bows nowadays aren't much faster. My 2001 Carrera is rated at 320 feet per second.
really. Yeah.
Now, you don't ever
Yeah. It's
get
all
that out of
about,
it, but you know,
yeah.
you don't need in fact, the faster the bow and the shorter the bow, the harder it is to shoot. So you better have good form.
Yeah. 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 I was going to say it. It's, and then you got somebody, if you know, pick up a buddy to go with, you got somebody to practice with too. It's, it might get to be a little bit of a, well, I should practice tonight, but it's kind of hot out. I'll go tomorrow night. You got a buddy that you're going to do it regularly with on Tuesday and Thursday or something, you get it done. And then, a little more gumption to get out there and do it. So, and then it's just, another buddy to go out and scout and set tree stands. And, right now I got some trail cameras up some different places. And in fact, one spot, the pond dried up. I'm hauling water out to a couple water barrels that I fill every week for the deer, turkeys, squirrels, raccoons, whatever's out there drinking, just try to keep some animals on the property. So, but, so it's fun. Yeah. I like sharing it with somebody. And, I really enjoy, like I said, with these young kids, the first year bow hunters, and then watch them mature as they go. But that, you get to meet up with another guy that's your age and you introduce him to hunting, and that first tag that he fills is just a moment of glory. And boy, those moments are pretty precious. So,
Yeah, sometimes it's more exciting when you get somebody introduced into it and now they get their first
yeah,
year and uh,
yeah. There, like you said, there's more satisfaction in watching that than if you or I fill a tag. So
yeah, I know.
you just,
I taught a guy how to shoot. Got his first bow. He didn't go with the entry level one. He went with a high end bow, and I taught him how to shoot because when I have my store, you buy a bow from me, I'm going to teach how to shoot. That's just included with
sure.
all bows,
Yeah.
whether it's a new one, used one, high end, low end. I'm going to teach you how to shoot.
Uh-huh.
And he comes back in 2 weeks after he got the bow with his first Robin Hood.
Really?
Yeah, 2 weeks later, it's like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
That
man.
kind of is more exciting than all of them I have.
Yeah. Yeah. We have that happen once in a while with the kids league too. They'll get a Robin Hood, and yeah, they're pretty pumped about that. We put them up on the, when we did have a place, we put all those Robin Hoods up on the wall and put their name on it. So it's kind
Yeah,
of,
name and date, and
yep, kind
that's
of
a,
special.
I didn't do that with a lot of mine, but I did with my son when he got one. Here's the date,
Yeah.
and, his name and the date that he got it, and
Yep.
it's kind of interesting. And whenever I'd see somebody do that, it's like, hey, date it, and
Yeah.
put your name on it, and date it, and it's a trophy. And
Anymore, you hate to shoot too many arrows at one target at the price of arrows, and especially like I try not to shoot more than one or two broadheads at a target at a time. But invariably, my luck is I usually whack the other arrow and cut the veins off of it or scuff it or do something. So
yeah, and then you kind of have to, depending on how bad you hit it, with the carb,
yeah,
if you
yeah,
slice it now, then it's done. And
yep,
yeah, I quit shooting
yeah,
single spots. I know I got two Robin Hoods when I was at Cabela's. One was setting up a guy's drop away rest, and you got to shoot them to make sure they're set up. And I go out there,
yeah.
take two shots, and stuck two of them together. And another one, the boat they got in, I forget who made it, but it was a Cabela's branded one, and we
Yeah.
set it up. I take two shots, stick two arrows together. We set up for one of the other guys. He puts 1 inch circles down there, hits 5 out of 6 arrows. We set up for a third guy.
Wow.
And then the hunting manager comes in and says, oh, we got to pull these. There's a problem with these bows. And we looked at each other and says, I don't know how to set one up.
Really?
And we had two more. And I said, well, let's set those two up. And he says, no. So I ended up recalling them and then coming back. And it's like, either we had a good one or we just know how to set them up.
Uh,
Well, when
that's
you have
quite the
stores
deal.
like
So,
Bass Cabela's,
yeah,
all those other,
sure.
box stores, if you have
Yeah,
somebody that knows what they're doing, it's not normal. You go to the
right.
pro shops that deals with, that's their thing is archery. Uh,
Yeah,
you're more likely going to have somebody that knows what's going on. Either they've been doing it a long
yeah,
time, they've been to school.
yeah.
When I got my
I kind of
store,
trust them for whatever something goes wrong or something. I mean, I can set my sight pins and do this and that and change the draw length on my grandson's bow and stuff like that. But anything real technical, I rely on those guys. So that's what they're there for.
Yeah, and some of these new bows, I can't work on them because I can't press them. You
Exactly.
know,
Yeah.
I had one of the new ones I looked at for guys, put a string on it, and he's gonna have to take the string off. He has to do it. My old Apple
Yeah.
press won't do those even close, and I had a portable bow press
Yeah.
that I've been able to use, but those limbs bent so far past parallel that I couldn't even put
Uh-huh.
my jig on it to do them on just a hand press.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And you
like
hate
I
to
can't.
bust somebody's equipment for them too, you know?
Yeah, it's not going to be safe to try and use this jig on it. And
Yeah.
all you can do is release the pressure, and you can take the strings off and change them. Um,
Uh-huh.
I do that every once in a while because I've been making
Sure.
strings since 2001, and so I just make all my strings. I got all the material and stuff. I could
Uh-huh.
probably make a string every week for my bow and never run out of string material. So I have to buy serving material, but the string material, I
Yeah.
got lots of it.
Oh,
Beach
good.
wise, I got
Yeah.
tons of different colors, and
Yeah, that's kind of fun tinkering with that stuff too and doing that. I don't do anything with string, but I wrap and vein my own arrows up. So if I've got, shoot, some arrows have been through I don't know how many critters if they don't get bent. I wipe the blood off of them, revein them, fresh broadhead, knock whatever they might need, and we're ready to go again. So
yeah,
that's
that's the nice thing about
that's the
working
thing
on
about
yourself.
yeah, that's like a firearm. Once the shell's out, you can't hardly shoot a second deer with it. But an old bow and arrow, you can get a couple, numerous kills with one arrow. So
Yeah, unless you're long, long ways away, you shoot that gun, they're gonna be gone.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So yep. So
Well, it's been great talking with you. Um,
well, you too, Roy. So I think as outdoors people can always sit and chew the fat, so to say, spin the yarn, whatever. I mean, everybody's got a bazillion stories, especially when you get to be an old guy like me that's been around a while and done some things wrong and had some success. And there's just a bazillion stories involved and always fun to share. So,
yeah, and that's why I like doing this podcast. That because I get to talk to people all over the world.
sure.
I've said this a couple of times. I've talked to guys in Serbia, South Africa, of course,
Uh-huh.
Canada and United States. And I have
Yeah.
one coming up for those. Watch out for it because this guy is in Italy, does not speak English. He's going to have a translator. So we're going to talk through a translator.
Ah,
And it's like, that'd be interesting. I'm kind of looking forward to that one. We're talking to somebody that don't speak English and we're translating it. So, asking questions and then translate to it and go back
yeah.
and forth. And I think it'd be real interesting because, when I've talked to people in other countries, it's the same thing. There's no difference in it. An archer is an archer worldwide. We're
Yeah.
automatically friends.
Yeah.
And that's what I say.
Good
If you have
deal.
a bow in
So,
your hand and another archer comes up, he's your buddy. You ain't
oh
know,
yeah.
may not know him yet, but
Yeah, they'll compare notes,
yeah,
sure enough.
and
So,
we're all willing to help each other out. I know in
yeah,
'95 I become an archery instructor. So I've been teaching quite a while, and I put my instructor patch on my 3D rig, figuring if anybody's interested, they can see the patch, say I'm an instructor,
sure,
and then
sure.
ask me. Because I don't go around saying, hey, you're doing that wrong. Uh,
Yeah. No, I
that's
don't
not the
either.
way to do it. If you're interested in
Yeah,
learning, you'll come up to me, or
yeah.
when
I mean, we
I
do
was
that
at the
with
stores,
we
I,
do
I
that with kids. You try to teach them the basic form in that, and if they get a little off kilter with it or something, you don't really yank on them and say, hey, but hey, this might work better if you want to try it this way here. So kind of, but I don't think I've ever run into anybody in the archery world that isn't friendly and wants to talk and just share the experiences with. They're definitely a rare breed, bow
right.
hunters, so archers.
Even though we're competing against each other, we're still
Yeah.
helping each other improve. And
Oh,
uh,
absolutely.
It's unlike most other sports, you're not going to help your competitor beat you. Or in
No,
archery, it's not unusual for, two people
yeah,
competing and, helping each other out.
yep. And I always watch them shake hands when they're all done, win, lose or draw. So,
Yeah, I
neat
know.
thing about it. So,
But a buddy and I, we used to go to the 3D shoots, and um, we could come in last and next to last. We didn't care because it was who beat who.
yeah,
1 week
yeah,
he'd win, 1 week I'd win, and it's
yep,
just who got to give the crap and who got to take it. On the way home.
yeah, yeah,
Next week it was
yeah.
different.
Good enough. So,
Well, we've been talking for a while, and it's been a lot of fun. So I'm gonna
yeah.
let you go, and it's been great having you on the show. And
Well,
I'm
I
sure we'll run into
appreciate you.
each other.
Yep, good enough.
Things how we live so close.
Yeah, Ithaca's not that far away. So
No,
I appreciate the opportunity, Roy. So good visiting with you. So
yeah. And
good
for
luck
those
down
who,
the road. We're only, what are we in here? May, June, July, August. We're only 90 days out almost from bow season starting up here again. So
yeah,
yeah,
that's quick. I better get my bow ready to go.
check those trail cameras, and get the creeks out of the tree stands, paint up the rusty spots so the paint scent's gone, and
Yeah,
we'll be at it. So anyhow, so all right, sir.
yeah. We'll talk to you later. My,
Thank you,
my-
Roy. We'll see
yeah,
you. Have a good day. Bye.
my name is Roy Canterbury, and I'm your host, Dan Arch Talk 101, and we'll see you next week.